Hello, I'm Peter Dunsmore and welcome to this series where I'm going to show you some basic veneering techniques. These are made in a very similar way. I've made an MDF template for this nice shape because I wanted to repeat it on, well, I've made about 8 of them for a table. I'll cut the shape out of the rosewood and then I'll actually glue the stringing onto the curve. It looks complicated, it's not actually, you've just got to be patient. Put some veneer tape on the underside that's wet, a little bit of glue on the edge of the veneer and hold that in with your thumb until it's grabbed. When the glue has grabbed, then you can take your thumb away, trim the paper away and repeat that on all 4 sides. In a similar way to the box, lay the rosewood with the stringing onto the mahogany, cut round it, remove the waste and pop in the inlay. So it's exactly the same as this rectangle, it just takes a little bit longer because of the curves, but the effect is just the same. It's a simple piece of veneer, a little bit of stringing, but it has the ability to really enhance a piece of furniture. This is an inlay I purchased from Craft Supplies. It comes already built into a piece of walnut background, and this is ready to insert straight into another piece of veneer for a top in a very similar way to the circle. You'd hold this down flat, run your knife carefully around the perimeter, remove the waste, pop this in and hold it in place with some veneer tape before you glue it on. There is an alternative method that you can use if you're putting it into solid wood that involves a router, but perhaps I'll show you that another time. Right, we'll just undo the clamps. That's been long enough to dry. And this is a bit that actually adds the moulding onto the edge, and that finishes off very neatly. Lift the top off. There we go. And there's the burr, the stringing, the cross banding, all nice and dry. If it's overhanging the edge of the walnut, just remove that with the knife by running your blade along the edge, but there's no need to here. At this stage, I'd sand that level with the veneers because it's standing proud. So we'll just get some abrasive paper and very gently rub it down level, and that will become apparent in a moment why I'm doing it just now. There we go, that's nice and level now, all the way around. Now that the stringing's levelled with the veneers, we can take a rounding over bit, put it in the router table, and then we can mould the edge and apply a nice simple moulding, or any moulding of your choice, to the edge here. The advantage of this is that this cutter will remove the excess veneer here at the same time, so it'll produce a nice cut edge on the cross banding leading into the moulding. As you can see, this is a bearing guided cutter, and the best way to use this is to use an offcut of MDF or something similar as a straight edge guide. And what I'm going to do is use double-sided tape to secure this in place. Level with the edge on both sides. And then the bearing on the cutter can rub against the MDF and at the same time produce the shape that we want. Right, just remove that from the template, put that aside, and as you can see we've just put a very simple moulding on the edge, and it's cut the cross banding back and put a very nice, clean, crisp, I suppose you'd call it a quirk, I suppose. It's just a nice, crisp, clean, neat edge to it. And I thought, to get an idea of what the finished result might look like, if we just apply a little bit of meths to bring out the colour. And bearing in mind this hasn't been sanded, or not sanded to a nice finish, this just gives you an idea of what can be achieved. And as you can see, just some few simple veneering techniques can produce a result like this. And this is what this looks like once it's been polished. This is a clock I've made, which although it's made of solid walnut as the case, as you can see from inside the door, it's solid timber, and the main case as well is solid timber. It's actually got some veneer of walnut on the outside of it, and if you look here, I've used the grain to effect. If you look here, it follows up through the door, and it's by cutting one piece of veneer into the sizes you need, but make sure you cut it off in sequence so it follows the pattern that you want it to do. So the grain follows here and up here. If you follow it round here, it'll follow around the door, and you've got the horizontal grain here, but I've kept this as a vertical. And in a similar way, you'll find the grain here follows round the hinges, but it also follow up from the base up through the top. And if you look at the rear of the clock, you'll probably see it better here. It follows here, round here, and through the door. And this is using your imagination with the veneers to get the best effect out of the veneer. Even though it's a solid walnut case, you use the veneer to an advantage here. And if you look at the top of the curve, you'll notice that it's actually reverse matched along the curve. So that's two pieces of veneer where I've reverse matched it and let the grain flow down here and over onto the shoulders here and here. Here's a writing slope I've made, but again it's a solid wood case, but I've used the veneers to for best effect, really, I suppose. You can see these are veneers. Here you can see the pattern flows through from the lower slope into the upper slope. The veneers are here. The lids, I've got burr walnut veneers on them to complement round here. If you look at the front of the box, you see a nice walnut figured piece of veneer, and it's complete with little defects or holes that I haven't bothered filling in. I've just let the wax and the polish sort of round over the edges a little. But if you notice here that I've used 3 pieces of the same veneer, and that flows through here and is reverse matched here. So if you can see that, that part there is reverse matched here. And if you look carefully, it also flows through the drawer on the side. If you make the box carefully, you'll find that it flows from the top to the bottom as well. And if you go to the other corner, you'll find that little knot there and these whorls around here. I've actually got a mirror image on this side here. There's the hole there and there's the whorls to match. And what I've done for the top, I've used a particularly attractive piece of veneer with some lovely whirly figurey pieces in here. I've laid it in one piece, but I've made a marquetry picture. It's the world and some musical instruments and some books and a harp and a map. And this is the main feature of this box. This is the bit that your eye goes to. I've shown you how to do simple inlay shapes such as circles and squares with a little bit of banding. Perhaps later on we'll come back to marquetry and I'll show you how to make pictures similar to this.